So I do want you to contextualize this video that has been circulating on the internet of you talking about the lover boy method. So we'll take a look at that right
let's
now.
get some context.
You cannot get a girl to work for you having fun. So the recruitment process is the same as the PhD course. You message them on Instagram. I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with the girl. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it and shit, it just doesn't work. It puts them off. I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work.
What's up, YouTube? Average Larry back again with another video, and today we got a spicy one for you. Now let me just say welcome back, and welcome if you're new here. If you're not new here, you know we don't like to waste too much time. We want to get right into these reactions. Today is no different. We got two giants right now, Andrew Tate and Candace Owens, going at it in a one-on-one interview. And it was like 3 hours long, so we had to cut this up so we can get all the highlight, all the juicy parts, and we're gonna split it into two for you. But this video right here, we're going with just information about the case. She's gonna press him, and he's gonna reveal some details about the case and what's going on. Let's check it out.
Okay, that's fair enough. I won't push you any further on that. All right, let's get to your case that's happening today. So, and why
Let's get to the case.
conservatives are screaming about it in America, and why they feel that Tucker didn't push you enough on this case.
Push me.
Okay, so first and foremost, one thing I want to clarify for people that are watching this is that there seems to be this understanding that you are being prosecuted, or you're being indicted rather, for human sex trafficking charges. I've read the indictment, and I do want to make it clear the words human sex trafficking occur on the indictment, but then it makes it very clear that what they're referring to is they've kind of extended the term.
Hold on. Let's look, y'all. Let's look. Recruited by deception, falsely inducing her about the intention to establish family, marriage, and relationship, and the existence of false feelings.
It's not what we think about in America when you think of a bunch of children being put into a truck.
Hold on. He's actually fulfilled the constitutive elements of the crime of human trafficking in a continuous form. Let's see here. Shelter, transported her, aim of sexually exploiting her by forcing her to engage in pornographic activities for the production and distribution. OnlyFans, subjecting her to forced labor.
And taken over the border against their will. They're basically saying that if you trick a woman into coming into a country by using the lover boy method, then they consider that to be human sex trafficking. So the definition has definitely expanded over time.
Well, it's also ridiculously misogynistic to believe that women can't make their own decisions on anything. So the whole thing about it is misogynistic. But yeah, you're correct. That's a very important distinction.
Essentially,
see, I do agree with that point, right? So if you're saying, okay, all I have to do to be considered a sex trafficker is to convince you to come stay with me. And if I lie and say, hey, I love you, I want you to be my wife, and you come stay with me, I've now sex trafficked you, even though you haven't actually done any work for me. I haven't taken any money from you. Like, if that's the grounds for it, then not every, but come on now. Like, if dudes ain't lying to get a woman, come on.
what they're saying is we have a show in America called 90 Day Fiance. That is the lover boy method, is women that go over to the U.S. They're clearly coming for citizenship, but these women kind of get duped and they sponsor these people. This would be the same vein of what they're trying to describe. I've read it myself, of what human sex trafficking can be, which is
it's an
a woman
reach.
fell for you, fell in love, moved over here overseas, but it's only because you were very convincing. That is the definition given in the indictment of what they're referring to.
Correct. So I'll give a very quick rundown on the case. Everything from these old videos, old clips, my webcam company, things that happened 10 years ago have absolutely nothing to do with the criminal case. Absolutely zero. Anything you see from before 2021 has nothing to do with the case. The case against me is that from 2021, my brother and I, when we were already worth hundreds of millions of dollars and already successful and famous, created an organized criminal group. And our intention was to convince women to move to Romania to make TikTok videos so we could steal the TikTok money.
This is a very important distinction, because a lot of people that are anti-Tate will try to suppose it as like they're getting him on his webcam business, or they're getting him on stuff that happened, you know, old clips that he had from, you know, long time ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And he said, no, the case is specifically from 2021 forward. And Candace seems to be corroborating that. and she says she's read the indictment herself.
And TikTok, and they mention OnlyFans.
Correct.
On the indictment page. And they say that you did this using the lover boy method.
Yeah.
And it almost reads, what's interesting to me and why I was compelled by this case is just that because they tremendously changed it. When they were investigating you, we were told that there was a woman who went to the UN who escaped your grip, and that, you know, she said, I've been held captive.
Yep.
And then after they investigated, they came up with what it sounded like regurgitated Andrew Tate videos.
Yep.
The lover boy method, which is in one of your videos where you're talking about women. So it seems like during that time where they held you in the cell, perhaps the initial case that they fed to the media fell apart.
Yeah, I believe what happened, and I have to be very careful what I say, but what I believe happened is in April of last year, Tristan and I had some visitors here from America who were only in the country for 5 days, made some very strange demands financially. When they were rejected, they called the American embassy and said they had been kidnapped. Those two women, we deem now to be professionals. One of them has accused 7 men of kidnapping in her life. And she's also lawyered up instantly from a left-wing NGO because she's currently being sued by us for false charges. And she seemed to be very well supported and funded. So I don't know if she was sent as an agent. We're not entirely sure. So this is a very interesting beginning to all of this in April. The Romanian authorities arrested us for precisely 2 hours and threw it out and knew it was all garbage from the beginning. The case remained open. Nobody understood why the case remained open. My lawyer made repeated requests to close the case. They wouldn't close the case, and it remained open and absolutely and utterly dormant. When I was canceled, when I was deleted across all social media and canceled and lost my bank accounts, my Uber account, my Stripe account, my Gmail, absolutely everything, literally within the same week, the case was picked back up, which was very strange. I was followed. They tried to find evidence of any kind of crime at all. They couldn't find any crimes whatsoever. They then raided my house for a second time with the intent of getting my electronics, which they got. They went through all of my electronics and they could find nothing of actual criminal intent. What they did find is my brother and I and our personal assistant, because at the time, if anyone who knows on the internet or has been around for a while will remember, my face was all over TikTok. You could not get rid of my face on TikTok. Me and my brother were explaining our strategy for how we got so big on TikTok to some friends of ours. They then said that we were forcing them to do the TikToks for our money, for our brand. They made this huge reach and said it's human trafficking because we're forcing women to make TikTok videos.
Yeah, so that's the part that registered to me as strange. It started as we were told it was kidnapping, which is it's very serious, that somebody fled to the U.S. embassy. This is the woman that you're talking about that you say you're alleging has also accused 7 other men.
Alleging, it's literally now on Twitter. You can see the the complaint we filed against her. 7 men she is accused of kidnapping. She's done it with 7 different boyfriends who didn't buy her what she wanted. One of them killed himself.
Okay.
Damn. That's sad, man. That's sad. That sucks. So yeah, I mean, if you got somebody, it's basically the crying wolf. Like, you got somebody that cried wolf 7 times now. How many times are we gonna let this shit ride before they get in trouble?
Wow. So
she's a professional.
Okay, so it's very strange that she comes over, she accuses you of kidnapping her, but then they decide not to prosecute that, but they fed that to the media, that you kidnapped someone, that she fled to the U.S. embassy. Yep. Then all of a sudden we learn that they're investigating you, and the charges then go from kidnapping to, well, actually what he was doing is a lover boy method, which we're saying is human sex trafficking, and that these women didn't know what they were getting into. They thought that he was going to marry them. And actually what he wanted them to do was just to make TikTok and OnlyFans videos.
Yeah. So the lover boy method, traditionally, the way it would traditionally work, the reason
But let's say that's true, right? If I say, hey, I want you to come over here, I love you, I want you to be with me, and then when you get over here, I say, actually, I want you to make TikTok videos and OnlyFans video for me. Can't you just say no? Am I missing something here? Can't you just be like, nah, I'm out?
It was criminalized and added to the criminal code is that I would be a Romanian man and I would meet a Romanian girl. We would get married. Marriage is part of it. I'm not married to anybody. We'd get married. We'd move to a richer country. You go from a poor country to a rich country, let's say America. You put the girl into sexual work, let's say prostitution, and then I'll keep all the money and I'll control her or coerce her by pretending to love her. That's what they're saying. That's how it traditionally works. They've accused me of using the lover boy method because basically I was a nice person. I was nice. That's the thing that's most people don't understand about the law. It's so ridiculously subjective. If they want to weaponize it and use it to attack you, that's exactly what they'll do. They can accuse any man of using the lover boy method if you send nice messages on a text message. If you're like, hey, baby, how are you?
So did you
Hey,
did
if
you
were
promise
nice.
did you promise to marry these women?
No, I didn't promise to marry anybody. What I had was girls.
Even if he did, promising to marry somebody is not a crime. It's just a lie. Like, I'm sorry, but to lie in that form is not criminal. If I say, hey, I'm gonna marry you, baby, I love you, and then we have sex, and then I was like, actually, I changed my mind. Is that a crime? I don't think that's a crime. I think you, as an adult, human, sentient being, should maybe be a little bit more diligent about who you align yourself with and how easily you allow yourself to be manipulated. Like, you are grown. We can't say that women are these powerful creatures that are well prepared to take care of themselves in one hand, and then say on the other hand, well, she was manipulated and she wasn't able to think for herself because he was so sweet and smart. Like, come on, man.
The two girls who were in the criminal file asked me how to be famous on TikTok. I told them how to be famous on TikTok, and I spoke to them nicely the entire time. These two women have come out and made videos repeatedly saying we're not victims of anything. I don't know if you've seen them.
No. Okay. So just so I back this up.
The victims.
The victims in the indictment.
Correct.
Have made videos saying we're not victims.
Correct.
I did not know that.
It's there. It's all over Twitter. In fact, on I think it's my pinned tweet, you can see the criminal case against Andrew Tate. The two victims who the DCAR are accusing me of using the Loverboy method on have made videos saying he just told us how to do social media. We're not victims.
I've never seen any of them being aggressive or rude. They've always respected people.
Ai fost amenințată?
Nu, n-am fost niciodată. Dacă eram amenințată, automat nu mai eram idiotă să stau în casa asta. Suntem prieteni buni de 2 ani de zile, cam așa. Poți să mă treci pe mine ca și victimă, dacă eu n-am spus că sunt o victimă.
They gave this statement to the police. The police ignored it and said they're brainwashed. So
Wow. So we can't give nobody credit for being themselves and thinking for themselves. Now we know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for you, even though you're a grown adult.
Ignore it. So now we have a criminal case where we have girls who are saying they're not victims of anything. Me telling girls how to make money on TikTok, or not even how to make money, because no one makes money on TikTok, telling them how to get famous on TikTok, and them saying that I forced them for money, which doesn't exist. There's no money in the criminal file. There's no transactions. There's no financials, nothing. The girls themselves have given statements in my defense. They're being thrown away so they can continue with this case saying that I've brainwashed the women. So now we have, imagine in court, my brother and I, and the two victims all on the same side saying nobody's done anything wrong. We're all friends. We were talking about TikTok accounts. And then you have the state with no witnesses on its own saying you're victims and you're bad and you're going to jail.
So it seems like what they're doing then is this is where the content from 10 years ago is coming into play, where they're saying, well, look, they're conflating this now. So even though these charges are from, and I read the indictment again, 2021, but look at what he said 10 years ago, which somehow confirms what we're saying. We don't have to listen to these women. So I do want you to contextualize this video that has been circulating on the internet of you talking about the lover boy method. So we'll take a look at that right now.
Let's get some context.
You cannot get a girl to work for you having fun. So the recruitment process is the same as the PhD course. You message them on Instagram. I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with the girl. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it and shit, it just doesn't work. It puts them off. I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work. You continue as normal, no mention of webcam. You f the girl. After you f the girl, you do the PhD test. If she passes the PhD test and she wants to be with you, then you start mentioning things like, yeah, but you know, you're always busy. You're always at work. You can come work for me.
Okay, so first question, when was this video taken?
Yeah, so this video is from 10 years ago, and this is me explaining how having a webcam company, it's actually a larger video as a whole. I'm explaining how having a webcam company can affect your relationships and how it affects your dating life. It also explains the fact that one of the girls I was dating at the time was working on webcam at the time. And it's explaining my general, overall, explains my life and how things are affected owning a pornography company, because obviously a lot of women will be put off by that. It doesn't explain, it doesn't say, I'd be very careful how I answer this question because I'm currently under an investigation, right? So I'd be very careful how I answer it. People are trying to chop it up and say that it says I am using the Loverboy method to somehow convince women to do things they didn't want to do. This is obviously not the case, and none of this is in the case file for a reason because it doesn't exist and none of these women are upset. But this is simply me explaining, it's actually a dating course I made a long time ago, and I'm a little bit embarrassed about it, to be honest with you, because it was 10 years ago and I was talking about women and dating and things in a way that I wouldn't talk about them anymore.
Right. So yeah, you look very young in the video.
Talking about
super young,
pimping.
and I'm talking about, hey, when you sleep with this girl or you meet that girl or you meet this girl on Instagram, and I have a webcam company. I don't tell them I have a webcam company. And I just think all that's kind of crass and it's below me.
Yeah.
And I don't really like talking about it. And it's amazing how things change as you mature and you get older. But once again, I was a much younger man. I think if you were to take any 24-year-old and look at the stuff he puts on the internet, some of it's going to be stupid. And I think if you look at anybody who made things 10 years ago, some of it's going to be stupid. It's absolutely not criminal in any regard.
That's a fact, man. People should be allowed to grow, right? If you have to be challenged right now, if you're 35, if you have to be held to the standard of whatever you thought and believed at 25, and none of it was illegal back then, but you know, maybe you just don't feel the same or you don't act the same. I don't think that's right, man. I think people should have the grace to grow. And if you can look at your past self and say, okay, well, maybe what I said back then wasn't, you know, conducive to longevity or how I feel today, that's fine.
There's nothing criminal about it. It has no bearing or any interest in the current case. But yeah, I was talking about how I don't mention I have a webcam business. The basic premise of the video was me explaining that I don't mention I have a webcam business ever, and that I'm Mr. Rich and I have this nice car and I go on dates with girls. And sometimes when I say I have a webcam business, some of them want money and they want to work for me. That's the basic premise of it.
Right. I'm glad to hear that you're not proud of the video. And I think that that's one of those things where I say that people don't allow you to grow up from things that you've done or said in the past. And this is obviously when you were operating a webcam business, you're talking about.
And that's the whole thing about the human experience. We're supposed to grow, right? And we're supposed to make mistakes and we're supposed to learn from them and we're supposed to evolve as people. And I'm certainly not proud of the video. When I say I'm not sorry for what I've done, I don't mean it in a, I would do the same things again. I don't mean it that way. I mean that at the time I was a lot less knowledgeable and I was younger and I made some mistakes. And just like I'm sure Jay-Z would never sell crack again.
Right.
Exactly the same reason I would never make a stupid video saying something so stupid again. I also could have never predicted the fact that I was going to become one of the most famous people on the planet.
Right.
I didn't see that coming. And if I did, I would have been a lot more careful with what I said and how I said it. And I do think that it's part of every person's journey to make some mistakes and learn from them and grow from them. And I kind of find it interesting that if I was a reformed drug addict, there'd be no problem. If I was a reformed murderer, there'd be no problem.
Right.
If I was a mafia boss and I'd sit here and I'd killed 3 people and we were doing an interview and I was like, yeah, I used to kill people. I've done my time. I'm out of jail now. I get less flack than if I made a video talking about dating when I used to have a business that did webcam than I currently get, you know? So all I can do is understand that.
Well, I think that's a little bit, I don't think that's completely accurate. I think if you're a mafia boss and you killed some people and you did your time and got out, if after that you were still one of the richest, most influential men in the world, especially amongst 13, 14-year-old boys, you probably would still get flack for your past, because that's the thing. If people don't like that Andrew Tate has such a grip on the youth, right? If he was just rich in the middle of Romania, not talking to nobody would give a fuck.
Man, I did the best I could at the time. And I was trying my very best to survive in a very harsh world. And I understand now that a lot of the way I said things, I certainly shouldn't have said them that way, but none of it is criminal.
Right. And it, again, has no bearing on your case today, but I want
There's literally no bearing. And it's conflation.
It's being circulated without, like, people think that video was shot last week.
Correct. And that's what's so good, because it's good to
Nah,
mention.
we don't
People
think
are trying to
that,
conflate
Candace.
things. In the
Come
current
on
case
now.
against me, there's no case.
You can clearly
Everybody
see he's
understands there's no
5
case.
years younger.
We're now in a situation where if
or
the
more.
legal system's completely fair, then the case is over. So what they're trying to do is they're going to conflate with old videos of mine, and they're going to try and muddy the waters and gaslight. And I will say that I am unhappy those videos exist, and I will say I wish I never made them, but I won't say that I'm sorry, because at the time I did the best I knew how to do.
And I think that's important for
That's
the
fair.
young kids that are following you, especially the young men, to know. Like I say, I always hope that I talk about the mistakes that I made, and I probably wouldn't even categorize them as mistakes. It's just things that I did. And if I could go back, of course I wouldn't do it. Hindsight's 2020, but it's important for them to hear that. I'm not proud of that, obviously. I'm not proud of it.
And that's why I never push them to the world, and that's why I never, propagate them in any way. Unfortunately, there's a weaponized attack against me where they still exist. And that's why I do so good to talk against them. I think that if you want to tell kids not to do drugs, you usually have a reformed drug addict.
One of the things about having a online personality, though, man, there's always a digital footprint. Anything you put out there in the ether can resurface. It don't matter if you delete it on your end, somebody could have screenshotted it, downloaded it, ripped it, whatever. It's out there. So you got to be careful.
To stand up and say, don't do drugs. I was a drug addict. It was a mistake. And I think that gives you a degree of credibility. So for me to sit here and say, be a lot more careful, one, with the way you say things on the internet, especially. Two, be a lot more careful with your interactions with women as a whole, especially in light of the Me Too movement and all these other things. Be very respectful. This video, this is a small clip. If you watch the video in its entirety, I actually talk about extensively about how you don't want to make a woman feel pressured. You don't want to pick up a rape charge for no reason. If she feels upset or sad, make sure you get her a taxi home. I talk about all these things in the same video. So this is still the worst part of a very long form video taken out of context. However, I just think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from it. And yeah, if I have to be slightly embarrassed and a little bit taken aback by them so I can teach people the lessons, and I'm going to teach people the lessons. And the basic premise is I was explaining how I have a webcam company and how it affects my romantic life. And that was how it was all encompassing and went together. And I think when I made the video, I got like 28 views.
Yeah, and now it's being circulated.
And now it's being circulated, and I'm being told I'm the worst person in the world by people who pretended they've never done anything wrong for the last 10 years. And also, there has to be a degree of time. I like to think there's a statute of limitations. Like, how long are you going to hold?
They will for the rest of your career.
I'm sure they will. And it's fine. And that's fine. But I mean, it's just like, okay, 10 years ago, a decade.
Yeah, they're going to keep making you answer for it in every capacity. I've seen that. God forbid you misspeak, you miss a word while you're saying something, they will circulate it over and over again. That's just the world of social media.
For me, what I feel is I don't feel guilty about them, but I do feel embarrassed because I don't feel like the way I spoke about women or the way I spoke about romantic relationships is my current view on romantic relationships. I think I've certainly matured. I was a young, brash, arrogant guy. This is what happens when you have a young kickboxer who's beating everyone up, making a bunch of money from the streets. I was a young, brash, arrogant guy, and I spoke in a way I perhaps shouldn't have spoke. And I'm sure if Jay-Z makes a song today, he won't speak about women and crack and drugs the way he used to speak about women and crack and drugs. It's just the reality of life, and you have to grow, and you have to take the embarrassment which comes from growing. So I will certainly sit here and make sure, I think the whole world understands that that's not my message. That's not what I'm teaching young boys today. The young boys who are following me today have no interest in these videos and don't watch these videos unless they're pushed by haters. I spoke in a way I shouldn't have spoke. Yeah, I regret the video completely. Have I ever hurt anybody? No. Has any of the girls who are being mentioned in that video come forward with anything other than defense of me? No. Nobody was actually hurt. It was just very brash, very arrogant, very bad delivery, which I regret.
I'm going to tell you something right now. If level with you as a human being, if I had to watch clips of me 10, 11 years ago, I would be red. Even the black girl go red. I couldn't even look. I wouldn't even want my husband to see it. So I feel your embarrassment.
Well, this
that's why a part of me when they were regurgitating these clips, I was like, this is so unfair. It's so unfair to say I'm upset. And by and large, the stuff that you're saying to young men, even if there are certain things I don't agree with, although I found it interesting that you said that peacocking is natural with men, because I think you're right. Now that you say it, I'm just a woman and I don't understand it. Yeah. But by and large, the stuff that you're saying today is not that. And so I think it's really, you got to be really careful if you're convicting somebody on who they were a decade ago.
Completely. And also, I like to think, and this is one of the things I do say, if the most advanced forensic detectives on the planet with years of effort, if the worst they can drag up is me talking about women in a slightly derogatory way, I'm kind of happy with that. And I'll be honest, because I scroll Twitter and I see all these liberals who attack people all day end up getting ousted for child porn or this or that, real things. And I'm like, thank God I have no skeletons for real, you know? So that's the worst version of me that anybody's ever going to see. And it was a long time ago, and I learned my lessons from it. And I do my very best to teach the lessons I learned, just like you said, to help people avoid going through the hardest way to possibly learn a lesson. And that's the reality of it. But that has no bearing on my current case. And I think that's what the confusion with my case is currently. People think that my case has something to do with that, even though they're completely unrelated events.
Right, and that's why I'm trying to clarify and talking to you, because I've realized that there's a lot of conflating going on. And a lot of it is because America, I feel, is just now being sort of introduced to you, whereas in the UK, you've been around for a while. And there was one, and I'm only familiar with your UK brand because of my husband. So I know that you've been big in the UK circuit for a very long time. And there was an old video that surfaced of you spanking a woman with a belt.
Yep. Tell me you love me. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you mean it. You message one other guy ever again, whether we're together or not again. You understand me?
This obviously has made it through the UK media for years, and I know what that is based on my understanding of what happened with Big Brother when you were on Big Brother. But Americans are just seeing this video in a long montage of awful Andrew Tate videos. So I want you to explain to them what that was.
Sure.
And again, this is another example of when the woman has already spoken out and clarified that this was not her being abused, but
absolutely. Yeah. The woman's already come forward instantly after the video. She came forward and made a video and said, look, this is between me and Andrew, and he never hurt me, and I love him very much. And this is something that personal that happened in the bedroom.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say something about the video that's been released recently about me and my ex-boyfriend, Andrew Tate. Andrew is my still great friend. What you guys saw on the video, it's just what we used to do. It was just pure game. He's a great guy. He would never hurt anyone unless he's fighting. And I just wanted to let you know that this is a huge misunderstanding, because I heard he got kicked out from the house because of it, which I found very unfair. It's because it was just pure game. It's just what we used to do.
And it's actually interesting because when I got arrested, even recently, even though me and her are no longer together, she was also doing videos in my defense. She made a very recent video a few months ago saying, once again, very nice things about me.
He is not a human trafficker. He would never rape.
Well, she definitely has some lip work done since that first video.
Anybody, and he would certainly never ever human traffic anyone either, including his brother. They would never do such thing. I am just so shocked, and I'm so fed up with all of these lies.
And you're right about public life, having your dirty laundry or your life thrown out there to the world. It is kind of interesting, and it's interesting how fast people throw stones, because I know how clean my life is compared to most people's lives. And the process itself is the punishment. Let's look at what's happened to me.
That's true.
All those months of investigation.
That's true. Once you start to drag somebody's name through the mud, their name will never be the same again. No matter if they become 100% exonerated, you're still going to have a large contingent say, he just paid him off. He's got money, so he got away with it. Well, you could have been completely innocent the whole time.
During all those months of investigation, there are pages and pages of files. Everything I did, everywhere I went, they were looking for me to break a law. I don't break laws. If I had even sped in a car, if I had littered, if I had done anything, it would all be in the case file. So they're spying on my entire life trying to find a crime. They can't find one. Then they go through my entire personal life, which is now all over the internet, leak it all over the internet. So you go through the embarrassment. Then they seize all your money. $15 million have taken of my money. Then I went to jail for 3 months. Now I'm on house arrest. By the time I'm found innocent, I've been punished. The process is the punishment. The process is the embarrassment. The process is teaching you a lesson. So it's not even about innocent and guilty. I don't think most people at home understand that if they want to hurt you, if you get to a level of influence where powerful people go, we have to damage this guy's name, we're going to accuse him of a sexual crime. It doesn't matter if you can prove yourself innocent 3 years from the point they accuse you, because you've already been wrecked. That's the entire goal of it, right? So now we're living here. I'm sitting here as a person who's accused of a crime. The victims are on my side. There's no one against me but the state. I've done nothing wrong. There's these Twitter detectives, Twitter internet detectives, who know who funds them, trying their very best to prove me guilty for no reason by taking old videos and conflating the issue and trying to make it complicated when it doesn't need to be. And I just sit here and think—
they are complicating the issue. I very much agree with you on that. I think that the goal of digging up these old videos was to say, well, that this somehow legitimizes the case against him in Romania. And that's just not true, right? You can say, you even said it, you're not proud of these videos. You can say, I think Andrew Tate is immoral. I think the things that he said here are not principled. They're trying to say that because of things that you said 10 years ago, you shouldn't have a platform to young men today. It's just too much conflation.
I made pro-atheist videos back then, and I'm very embarrassed of those.
Right.
I'm extremely embarrassed of the videos. I would sit and say, God is not real. In fact, I'm more embarrassed of those videos than any other video. Wow. And I would sit there, and now I'm devout to my religion. So I would sit there and try and talk about how God wasn't real, and I thought I was smart. And now I watch it and think I was an idiot. And I like to think of myself as a pretty wise person. I wouldn't have a platform if I wasn't wise. And I'm 36 years old. But at 25, I was a dummy. And I think that any 36-year-old, if you were to ask him, were you a dummy at 25?
I feel like young men especially take a little longer to
completely. You're
mature.
Full of testosterone. I was making money. I had a Lambo. I was fighting. I was beating everyone to pieces. I had a few hot girlfriends. I thought I was Mr. Hotshot. Yeah. Like, is that the worst thing in the world? Like, who isn't? Right? So, yeah, it's very interesting that they're going to attack me with these forever, and that's fine.
Well, I must say, I enjoyed the interview, man. I enjoyed that content very much so. I like that dichotomy that they had, very respectful, even on things that they disagree with. They were very respectful of the other person's opinion. That's how interviews are supposed to be, man. I like that. Other than that, man, if you haven't checked out the other video, the other breakdown of the highlights, let's go ahead and watch that one. And if you have, thank you guys for making it this far. I love you guys so much. You are the reason we're still going on this channel. Let's keep going and keep growing. And as always, one love.